The story begins with a group of young guys riding their motorcycles through a forest. Suddenly, they spot an old truck on the road. They slowly move toward it, not knowing the massive danger hidden inside. This truck belongs to one of America's most dangerous monsters, known as the Creeper. Anyway, the guys start messing around for no reason. A boy named Luke picks up a stone and throws it at the truck's window. But this wasn't ordinary glass. When the stone hit it, it bounced right back and struck Luke on the head.
Meanwhile, another boy named Kirk starts investigating and opens the back door of the truck. The moment he looks inside, everyone is terrified. There's a white bag, and it's obvious that there's a human corpse inside it. As Kirk moves closer to take a better look, a strong, foul smell hits him. Just as he steps back, the truck door suddenly slams shut with great force. Seeing this, all of them panic and immediately jump onto their motorcycles to escape. But suddenly, from behind the truck, a rope shoots out at high speed. At the end of it is a sharp blade which pierces straight into Kirk's leg. Luckily, his friends don't abandon him. They support him on their shoulders and help him stand. Then they try to call for help, but there's no signal in the forest. They attempt to pull the blade out of Kirk's leg with their hands, but it's stuck deep inside.
Things get even worse when the rope starts pulling Kirk backward on its own. The three friends have no idea what to do. At that moment, the guy on the red motorcycle runs away, but the other two stay with Kirk. Within moments, Kirk is dragged all the way back toward the truck. He's terrified and tells his friends to find help somehow. As one of them takes out his phone, they suddenly hear a sound from above, and then, out of the sky, a dead body falls to the ground. Before they could say or do anything, a massive creature came flying in, flapping its wings, and landed on top of the truck. The moment they saw it, the remaining two friends panicked and ran away. Meanwhile, the creeper came down to the ground and opened the back door of the truck. Then he raised his hand and suddenly a spear appeared in it. The creeper took aim at the fleeing boys, and with a single throw, the spear pierced straight through both of their bodies. After writhing in pain for a while, they died. The creeper then pulled out his spear, placed it back in the truck, and began preparing to hunt his next victim. Just then, he caught a strong scent and realized there was another human nearby. It was Kirk's fourth friend, the one who had run away earlier. Using his sense of smell, the creeper tracked him down and killed him as well. Then we learn that this creeper awakens every 23 years and for 23 days turns into a savage beast that hunts humans. A little later, the police found the creeper's truck. When they opened the back door, they discovered numerous dead bodies inside. The truck was filled with rotting corpses and skeletons, so many that it made the officer's blood run cold. One officer reached inside to investigate further, but suddenly a trap snapped forward, slicing off his arm. No one had expected so many hidden traps inside that old truck. Because of this mechanism, they couldn't even remove the bodies anymore. Seeing all this, Sheriff David felt deeply disturbed. Around the same time, more police vehicles arrived, and we learned that the government had formed a special squad to capture the creeper. The leader of this team was Captain Dan. Dan and David began discussing the case, while the other officers tried to open the truck. Suddenly, the knife-tipped rope lashed out again from inside the truck, barely missing Dan and almost killing him. Witnessing this terrifying scene, everyone was shaken, and no one dared to go near the truck anymore. A little while later, David took Dan aside and told him that the creeper had already killed 3 officers and several civilians. Just then, some officers informed them that the creeper's truck had been towed away. Hearing this, Dan became furious because he knew the creeper would stop at nothing to reclaim his truck. That meant the tow truck driver's life was in danger. They immediately contacted Officer Dana and the tow truck driver, Frank. But by then, the creeper had already arrived near the truck carrying an axe. With a single strike, he broke the chains. Frank suddenly stopped the truck and realized that the creeper's vehicle had come loose and rolled back. Dana and Frank went closer to check, and they saw the creeper standing on top of the truck, staring at them. That's when they realized the truck could move on its own without any driver. Now that the creeper had his truck back, he simply left the scene, almost as if mocking them, without harming them. Dana and Frank thought they had survived, but moments later, they saw the creeper's truck returning. At this point, Frank was extremely terrified. The truck came to a stop a short distance away, but the creeper was nowhere to be seen. As Dana and Frank looked around, the creeper suddenly leaped down from the air and landed on Frank. Dana immediately aimed her gun at him, but the creeper gestured in a way that made it clear her weapon was useless against him. Right in front of her eyes, the creeper carried Frank away into the sky, and she could do nothing but stand there helplessly.
Soon after, Dan and David arrived at the scene and found Dana sitting silently in the driver's seat, completely shaken. The next morning, we see a crow sitting at the door of a house. An old woman steps outside and looks toward a tree. Then a man gestures for her to come over. The woman's name is Galen, and seeing this man fills her with deep sadness. In reality, that wasn't a human, it was the spirit of her deceased son, Kenny. 23 years ago, when the creeper last appeared, Kenny had witnessed it abducting a man. He immediately got out of his car and went looking for him. Suddenly, a severed hand fell from the sky right in front of him. It wasn't just anyone's hand, it belonged to the creeper, and even after being cut off, it was still moving. Kenny picked it up and took it home with him, then buried it under a tree in front of the house. Now, 23 years later, the creeper had returned, and Kenny knew it would definitely come back to reclaim its severed hand. His spirit warned his mother to leave town with her niece, Addison, or they would become the creeper's next victims. The next day, Addison went to a store to buy feed for her horse. However, they already had a lot of unpaid debt, so the shopkeeper refused to give her anything. Disappointed, Addison started heading back home, but the shopkeeper's son, Buddy, felt sorry for her. He had liked Addison for a long time, so he decided to help her anyway. Without his father's permission, he brought a large amount of feed for her horse. Addison felt a bit embarrassed, but accepted it and promised Buddy that she would repay all the money soon. After that, Buddy went with Addison to the stable to store the feed. On the way, they noticed several horses in a nearby field running in fear. Buddy stepped out to check and saw that the farm owner was panicked while the workers were hiding under a tank, as if they had witnessed something terrifying. The farm owner urgently told Buddy to call the police. Buddy went to his truck and was about to make the call when suddenly a blood-covered man appeared at their window, making both of them scream. Before they could recover from the shock, a dark shadow began circling above them. It was the creeper who had come to capture the workers hiding under the tank. When Buddy and Addison heard the sound of the tank flipping over, they realized the creeper was right behind them. But when they looked again, the workers were gone. As they turned back, the creeper had vanished. Buddy quickly tried to start the truck and leave, but it wouldn't start. Suddenly, the creeper appeared right in front of them. It closed its eyes and began sensing the fear around it. It seemed more interested in Addison than in Buddy. It suddenly flew toward her and wiped the blood off the window with its finger. Then it began smelling Addison, and soon it realized that she was its true target. It let out a terrifying scream so powerful that the glass of the window shattered. In a single move, it broke through the window, flipped the truck, and grabbed Addison. By the time Buddy understood what was happening, the creeper had already flown away with her. Later, we see that instead of killing Addison, the creeper throws her into the back of its truck and goes off to hunt again. Inside, Addison notices Kirk, the same boy who had been injured earlier by the blade. Since they were both from a small town, they recognized each other. They quickly made a plan to escape before the creeper returned. Kirk knew the back door was trapped, so he decided to try escaping through the front. However, he didn't realize that the front was just as dangerous. The moment he touched the handle, a spear shot out at high speed from the side, piercing straight through his head. Seeing this, Addison was frozen in fear. Meanwhile, back at the farm, Galen was still trying to figure out what had happened to her son 23 years ago. Ignoring Kenny's warning, she dug up the creeper's buried hand from the ground and placed it on a table. To her shock, the hand was still moving. Nervously, Galen slowly reached out to touch it. Suddenly, the creeper's hand grabbed her and lifted her into the air. Her eyes turned white and her body began twisting in unnatural ways. At the same time, Dan and David, along with their team, were preparing to capture the creeper. A team member named Michael arrived with a modified truck equipped with a powerful weapon, capable of firing 6,000 rounds per minute. Michael was confident that this weapon could take down the creeper. Once the team gathered, they began searching for it. Meanwhile, when Galen regained consciousness, she called Dan and David and asked them to come to her place. When she had touched the creeper's hand, she had seen its true story. She now understood what it really was and how it came into existence. However, she said she couldn't reveal the truth to them. Dan and David didn't push her further. Still, Dan wanted to uncover the mystery himself, so he decided to touch the creeper's hand. David tried his best to stop him, but it was no use. Suddenly, the creeper's hand grabbed his hand as well, and Dan lost consciousness instantly.
His team quickly pulled him down, and as soon as he hit the ground, his eyes turned white and his body began twisting in unnatural ways. After some time, when Dan regained consciousness, he looked completely stunned. When David asked him what he had seen, Dan stayed completely silent. At that same moment, Michael received news about an overturned vehicle on Highway 9. He immediately realized it had to be the creeper's doing. Hearing this, Dan decided it was time to carry out his plan to eliminate the creeper. This time, Michael led the way, with Dan and David following behind as they set out to find it. Soon, they spotted the creeper's truck on Highway 9. Enraged, David fired at the truck's tires, but even the tires were bulletproof, and the bullets bounced back, hitting their own vehicle. He then fired at the truck itself, but the same thing happened. Now, the creeper launched a bomb from the truck toward them. At the last second, Dan swerved the car and avoided it, but the bomb had a tracking system and began heading toward them again. Thinking quickly, David shot the bomb midair, causing it to explode before reaching them. Just then, Michael arrived from the other side, ready to finish the creeper using his special high-powered weapon. Seeing this, Dan panicked and immediately radioed Michael, telling him not to fire because the bullets would ricochet back at them. But Michael couldn't hear him and opened fire anyway. Exactly what Dan feared happened. The bullets bounced back, striking them instead, and both Michael and his driver were killed on the spot. Soon after, another bomb came toward Dan and David, and this time they couldn't escape. The explosion flipped their vehicle, but luckily they survived. Moments later, the creeper arrived in its truck, blaring the horn repeatedly as if provoking them. David stepped out with his rifle, ready for a final showdown. Dan followed him and told him to stay calm, because if the creeper sensed his fear, there would be no chance of survival. Then, Dan noticed Michael's truck and decided to try using the special weapon himself. Meanwhile, the creeper slowly approached David holding its axe. David fired, but the creeper blocked the shot with its axe. David stood his ground and fired again, knocking the creeper's hat off. This enraged the creature. As David prepared to fire a third shot, the creeper launched a dart that struck directly into the barrel of his rifle, rendering it useless. Now, David was left with only a handgun for defense. Just as the creeper was about to deliver a fatal blow, Dan stepped in at the last moment, aiming the special weapon and shouting at it. This distracted the creeper, but unfortunately, the weapon jammed. The creeper turned on Dan, spreading its wings and taking to the air. Dan realized he might not survive this time, but in that critical moment, he used all his strength to fix the gun and opened fire on the airborne creature. Bullets rained down, tearing into the creeper, but even this massive firepower had no real effect. The creeper seized the opportunity and attacked. From a distance, David watched in horror as the creeper used its axe to decapitate Dan. Now David had no choice but to run. As night fell, Galen was certain the creeper would come. She picked up her shotgun and prepared for a final fight. Suddenly, headlights appeared outside. She thought it was the creeper, but when she opened the door, it was Buddy. He told her that the creeper had taken Addison. Meanwhile, inside the truck's cargo area, Addison heard noises outside. She quickly hid under a white sheet and pretended to be dead. But as soon as the creeper entered, it pulled the sheet off and grabbed her. It was about to eat her, but when it turned to grab a knife, Addison seized the opportunity and slipped away to hide. When the creeper grabbed her again, she cleverly activated the trap on the passenger seat. A spear shot out and pierced the creeper's head. The creature let out a horrifying scream. One of its eyes was destroyed in the attack. Taking advantage of the moment, Addison broke free and carefully avoided the traps before jumping out of the truck. She got up and started running as fast as she could. The creeper tried to chase her, but suddenly collapsed to the ground. It turned out that Dan had earlier blown off one of its wings. As it got back up, it threw a dart at Addison, but she tripped over a rock and the dart missed her by inches. Enraged, the creeper picked up its rope with the blade attached. With only one eye left, it struggled to aim properly as its target kept getting farther away. It threw the blade with all its strength, but it missed, catching Addison's jacket instead and knocking her to the ground. The creeper picked up its axe and charged toward her. Just as it was about to reach her, an oncoming truck slammed into it, saving Addison's life. She quickly got up and ran without looking back. For the first time, the creeper, the one who had terrorized so many, looked almost helpless. It vented its anger on the truck driver, killing him and using his body to heal its injuries. Later, the creeper returned to Addison's house to retrieve its severed hand. It found the hand on the ground, left there by Galen along with a message. The message read, "I know what you are." Reading this filled the creeper with rage, and it crushed the hand into pieces. It only had 23 days to hunt humans before it would go back into a 23-year sleep. So for now, it decided to leave Addison and focus on a bigger target. Meanwhile, after narrowly surviving, Addison reunited with Buddy and his grandmother. In the end, Buddy and Addison embraced each other and confessed their feelings. So, how did you like this strange and terrifying movie? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.